I got a question for you, Tank. At 147, how does a fight with you and Terrence Crawford look?
Damn.
147. Shit, if I
147.
tap that chain, you know he going to sleep.
I already know. I
You
already know who
he
he
ain't
is.
got no chance.
I already know who he is.
He said no chance.
Tension between Tank and Crawford is still heating up in the boxing world, and it looks like their rivalry isn't going away anytime soon. For years, they've argued over who could knock the other out, but recently, the focus has shifted to who earns more money and who has the more attractive partner, especially after Tank made it personal. It was only a matter of time before Crawford and his fans responded. And now, after Tank suggested a fight between the two, Crawford had enough and hit back with the cold truth. Terrence Crawford didn't hold back when he took to X and sent a direct message to Tank Davis, warning him to stop being scared and fight Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis, before mentioning someone at a level he'll never reach. Crawford's words landed like a powerful left hook, adding even more.
Right, grow some balls and fight Shakur, Keyshawn, and stop being scared. That's probably why you ran your girl over and beat her ass, because she know you ain't got no nuts, my people. You know? And then right there, Gervonta pretty much insinuated if I was to fight Crawford, I'll make him look little. Then they both said, yeah, I want dudes to see me and try something. That would be his last going for greatness. And then Terrence said, go for it then, you feel me?
Crawford's call-out is deeply personal. Shakur Stevenson and Keyshawn Davis aren't just fellow fighters. They're close friends of his, with Keyshawn even being his protege under the same trainer, Brian Bomac McIntyre. But let's be real, Keyshawn Davis hasn't truly proven himself on the big stage yet. His performances against Miguel Madueno and Nahir Albright were underwhelming, and fans haven't forgotten how he avoided facing Cuban phenom Andy Cruz, who beat him 4 times in the amateurs. Still, this is the level Crawford believes Tank belongs in, not constantly bringing up Crawford's name everywhere. And while there's some controversial truth in Crawford's words, some fans believe Tank could actually stand a chance and maybe even pull
Gervonta
off a
Davis
win if he
speaking
ever
about
faced Bud.
Is that ever a possible fight?
Yeah, if he want to dare to be great, he can be like all the other fighters that's moving up 2 weight classes, and, daring to be great.
You would fight him.
Man, tell him to come up there.
He got to come to win 54.
He said I got a glass chin, so tell him to come and touch it.
Wow.
Tank, unsurprisingly, isn't interested in the 2 fighters Crawford mentioned. Gervonta Davis has built a name for himself as a box office superstar. He knows his value and has no intention of giving Keyshawn Davis the spotlight, especially since Keyshawn doesn't bring much of a
Tank,
fan
do you got the
base or
balls to fight me or
marketability.
not?
As for Shakur Stevenson, while he's technically skilled, critics often label him as boring due to his highly defensive style. Even Eddie Hearn, who signed Shakur with hopes of turning him into a global star, may be facing a tough challenge trying to market him in the US. Tank doesn't see fighting Shakur as worth the risk or the effort, especially when he'd have to carry all the promotional weight. But Crawford didn't stop there. In a now-deleted tweet, he took things even further, mocking Tank's character and dragging his personal life into the mix. That's probably why you ran your girl over and beat her ass, because you don't get no nuts, and she knows it, Crawford tweeted, ending with a laughing emoji. Boxing has had its fair share of rivalries, but few have reached this level of intensity, especially between 2 such dominant fighters. Normally, trash talk stays within the realm of careers and fighting styles, but when it shifts to family and personal attacks, things clearly go too far. The personal jabs are brutal, showing how deep this feud really runs. Crawford isn't just questioning Tank's choices in the ring, he's attacking his pride. Tank didn't stay quiet either. Whereas in Saudi Arabia is more about cashing out than building a legacy. Y'all really think he's chasing greatness? Tank posted on X. He's not. That's just what he has to do to make decent money. And the numbers may support Tank's point. Crawford's last fight against Israel Madrimov reportedly pulled in only 75,000 to 100,000 pay-per-view buys. A low figure compared to the blockbuster numbers Tank brings in with each of his fights. Crawford, however, sees things differently. He insists that moving up 2 weight classes to fight the unified super middleweight champion is all about...
You got guys who are really, really, really good, and they're not really hell-bent on becoming a star. I put you in that category. I put Terence in that category. Maybe Shakur, where they feel like they don't really want to, like, Terence ain't bothered about going to premieres.
Securing his legacy in boxing history. Legacy is the word he uses to describe his motivation, but Tank isn't convinced. To Davis, Crawford's move to jump 2 divisions without first proving himself at 168 pounds seems desperate. Fans are split on the issue. Some admire Crawford's ambition, while others agree with Tank, believing the potential Canelo fight is more about money than greatness. The tension between Crawford and Davis isn't new. It began after Crawford's dominant win over Errol Spence Jr. when he became the undisputed champion. While Crawford was still celebrating, Tank made headlines by claiming he could beat Crawford at 147 pounds. Crawford, speaking on The Breakfast Club, responded calmly, but firmly reminding everyone that there are levels in boxing. If he comes up to 147 thinking he's just going to knock Terence Crawford out, he's got another thing coming, he said. The response was controlled, but it carried a clear warning. Crawford isn't a fighter to underestimate. Interview. Despite all the heated back and forth.
How you feel about that fight? Is it even possible at a catch weight?
Nah, ain't no catch weight. You come up to 47.
Not even entertaining a catch weight.
No, I'm not.
He's a champ though too, undefeated.
And what champ? Come on, man, tell me what belt. You know boxing. You forgot Devin Haney is undisputed. Devin Haney got all the belts. He the champ. Nobody else the champ. I'm gonna come up here where the big boys at.
All right,
I'll welcome.
Is this just trash talk? Or could there actually be a future where these two share the ring? What makes this rivalry even more intriguing are the strong and often controversial opinions surrounding it. Some fans and analysts argue that Crawford is punching down by engaging with Tank, who fights at 135 lbs and is much smaller. They believe a fight at 147 or above would be a complete mismatch. Others think Tank's confidence is misplaced, and that he's seriously underestimating just how dominant Crawford is in the higher weight classes. Then there's the question of marketability. Crawford may not be the pay-per-view star that Tank is, but his accomplishments in the ring speak for themselves. This raises an important question in the boxing world. Should legacy matter more than popularity?
How do you not lead with ego? Like if you hear somebody like Tank say, 147, I knock Bud out.
Well, he just talking. Mm-hmm. You know, he got the confidence in himself that he believed that he can do that because he's been knocking all these fighters out that he's been in the ring with. You know, so no knock to Tank, but there's definitely levels. You know, and
knockout power and ability to sell out arenas show exactly why he's one of boxing's biggest names. Crawford has finished 31 of his 41 fights inside the distance, while Gervonta Tank Davis boasts an incredible 28 knockouts in just 30 bouts. If these two powerhouses ever met in the ring, it would be pure mayhem, the kind of chaos where legends are made. Crawford's clinical dismantling of opponents contrasts sharply with Tank's sudden, explosive knockouts that seem to come out of nowhere. Yet both fighters share one undeniable trait: when they sense weakness.
I mean, if he want to retire with the career that he got, then go ahead and do whatever you got to do. So I disagree with it. I think it's soft, but that's on him.
Single knockout blow, but instead breaks opponents down piece by piece, delivering a slow and methodical beating. He doesn't necessarily one-shot people, but what he does is he just beats you up and then he kills you, Norman said. On the flip side, he gave Tank the edge in raw power, saying, "As far as one shot, who got it? I gotta give that to, Tank." The key difference lies in how they fight. Crawford's brilliance is in his adaptability, effortlessly switching stances and exploiting weaknesses in real time. While Davis also has high boxing IQ, often underrated, he thrives in chaos, using pressure and timing to land devastating shots. Crawford, however, is more of a master strategist, a puppeteer who controls the fight until his opponent is completely undone. Even Roy Jones Jr. acknowledged Davis's explosive nature, saying, "That's the one thing Tank has that Errol Spence didn't. And that matters, because Spence, an elite technician, couldn't handle Crawford's adjustments and relentless pressure. But Tank is different. He's a predator capable of ending a fight with a single soul-snatching punch." Critics may argue that Davis hasn't faced the same level of competition as Crawford, and it's a fair point. Crawford's resume includes top-tier names like Errol Spence Jr., Sean Porter, and Kell Brook. Interview. Crawford has ventured into the toughest waters in boxing and not only survived, but completely dominated. Davis, meanwhile, has secured big wins against fighters like Leo Santa Cruz, Ryan Garcia, and Rolando Romero. Impressive names, no doubt, but not quite the brutal lineup Crawford has faced. And that contrast is exactly what makes this fantasy matchup so intriguing. Davis has a way of making elite fighters look average, which suggests he might be more than capable of rising to Crawford's level. Physically, Crawford would have the edge. He's the naturally bigger man with a longer reach and a frame built to handle weight all the way up to
Tank Davis. Bad dude. See, what I like about Tank is Tank brings something different. You know, back in the days, everybody had something. Muhammad Ali was a mover boxer, George was a puncher, Ernest Shaver was a puncher. Everybody had something they brought to the table. Larry Holmes had a jab. Mike Weaver had overhand.
Davis, though shorter and more compact, has never had trouble carrying his power through different weight classes. Still, fighting someone like Crawford at 145 pounds would push Tank into uncharted territory. Stylistically, Crawford's versatility would be his biggest weapon. His ability to switch seamlessly between orthodox and southpaw could frustrate Davis, forcing him to think instead of just react, which is arguably when Davis is at his weakest. But let's not mistake Davis for a mindless slugger. His precise destruction of Ryan Garcia, ending with that perfectly placed liver shot, showed
rank him probably in your top 10, maybe even your top 5.
Where do you rank Terrence, in your opinion?
I put him in the top 15, maybe the top 10, because he definitely has the skill of a top 5. Just that he hasn't had the opposition that some guys were able to get, and that's not his fault. He just made one of the best fighters in his weight class look like nobody. That's pretty damn good. Now he
need to win rounds. He only needs one moment. Against a fighter like Crawford, that's a dangerous weapon. Even though Crawford is brilliant, he's been hit before. Jose Benavidez Jr. found early success against him, and Cavalos even managed to wobble him. If Davis lands a clean shot, it could be the end, no matter how dominant Crawford has been up to that point. Ultimately, this hypothetical clash comes down to two questions. First, can Davis find and exploit the opening he needs to land his fight-ending punch? And second, can Crawford impose his will and drag Davis into deep waters where his explosiveness might begin to fade? These aren't easy questions to answer, which is why just imagining this fight fires up so many fans' imaginations. The big hitter from Baltimore has said before he would knock Crawford out, maybe jokingly, but Crawford, the bigger man, has warned him not to punch above his weight. That kind of trash talk fuels debates, and in this case, it's well-deserved. Davis may have the edge in raw power, but Crawford's mastery of the sweet science makes him a nightmare for any opponent. The truth is, both men would enter the ring with weapons strong enough to dismantle the other. The outcome of a fight between Crawford and Davis would come down to who can impose their style first. Crawford with his suffocating control, or Davis with his explosive chaos. While this matchup may never happen, the hypothetical...
405! 405! There you go.
Spark endless debates and ultimately make the sport richer just by the thought of it. Crawford has finished 31 of his 41 fights inside the distance, while Davis boasts 28 knockouts in 30.